In this video, we'll talk about some common Frisbee terminology that'll be shared amongst most teams. And that way we can talk about things that it plays and things, and everyone will know what we're talking about, and all of our terminology can be the same. Most of these are coming from this website here, which is a pretty good website. It has many more terms than we're going to talk about in here today, and most of them are the same as the terms that we use and that most people use. So first we have our field, we have the outside lines, we have our end zones on either end, the play field or playing area in the middle, and then the brick mark is here. So occasionally we'll use these, like the brick marks or the center of the field, as references for our different sets. So for in this video specifically, we're going to talk about the offensive terms. So first is a handler. There's lots of, this is a very in-depth description, but a handler is basically a person who specializes in throwing the disc and setting up and running the offense. So handlers are typically more experienced players who are good at throwing. And then the players that are not handlers are cutters, and the cutters are the people who make cuts. So they run to catch the disc, and they are better, not necessarily better getting open, but their main job is to get open for the handlers to throw it to them. Our typical offensive sets will involve some sort of stack. So a stack is just a line on the field that the cutters, a place where the cutters line up on the field in order to open up space for them to cut to. So a few examples of stacks that we'll see a lot is a horizontal stack. So in a horizontal stack, we get 4 cutters lining up horizontally on the field, and typically we'll have our 3 handlers back here, and this opens up space underneath the cutters and deep of the cutters. And in all of these, the offense will be going in this direction. We'll have a vert stack or vertical stack, where we'll get our 4 cutters, and then something like this, where the handler at the front of the stack and a couple other handlers down here. Disc would be here or here, and then the vertical stack, it opens up space to the sides. And then another common one we see a lot is a side stack, where you get cutters on the side of the field with 1 handler, and then a couple of handlers down in this area, and it opens up the middle and the other side of the field. Some terms that aren't on a common term is backfield. This isn't on the other list, but the backfield is the area where the handlers are. So if we're going in this direction up, so this is our end zone where we want to score, then the area down at the bottom of our screen where the handlers are is often called the backfield. So say we'd say here that there's 2 handlers in the backfield, 1 handler setting the stack, and everyone else going up. Setting the stack, meaning they're the ones who are at the front of the stack and kind of help everybody, make sure everyone is in the correct spot in the stack. So that's a stack. Stack is just a line on the field. We have, this is our line on the field, this is our line on the field, this is our line on the field in these 3 cases. An undercut is a cut where a cutter will run toward the handler, as opposed to a deep cut where the cutter cuts away from the handler. And then finally, talk about setting up a cut, which is getting into the correct position to be able to begin your cut. So in this horizontal stack, we might get an undercut this way. This would be an under. This person might run and that's under because it's going toward the handlers. This other cutter might cut deep. That's a deep cut. And then often we'll just describe this entire space as an under space and deep space. So under is close to the handlers, deep is away from the handlers. And then in setting up a cut, it's very common in these other stacks like this side stack that this cutter can't immediately go and run straight deep because there's other people in the way. So they'll have to set up their cut by coming away from the stack. This would be the setup, and then they can do whatever else they need to do, whatever cut they're going to run. And then the final, not the final, next thing is a clear. A clear is to leave the space. So if this cutter makes this in cut towards the handler, you'll need to clear out by leaving that space so that someone else can cut there. And the same thing over here, like in our side stack. If this cutter comes out here, does some cut, and it ends up out here, they need to clear the space by cutting usually back to the stack. So clear is leaving the most useful space so that somebody else can make a cut, and typically we clear back to the stack. So there's our definition of clear. I'll skip to huck. Huck is just another word for a long throw. If you hear someone say huck, that's what that means. And then the last one we'll talk about is a reset. A reset is a cut intended to reset the stall count, or typically a short pass to a handler to help maintain possession of the disk when other cuts are not working. So if these cutters have gone and nothing's happening, then this handler here can throw a reset down to this other handler. That is what a reset is. In other situations, perhaps like this handler would cut up here and then throw it again, a relatively small throw, and that is another reset throw. Typically, we want to run our resets at about stall 3 or maybe 4. Okay, and those are our offensive terms.